What's up, YouTube? Welcome back, guys. This is Sane. We're gonna continue the trend we've been kind of on for a while, ranking all of the Pokemons of each type in a Nuzlocke on a general standpoint. This week is Fairy, which is by far the least amount of Pokemon I'll ever have to rank on any of these types. So hopefully this one should be pretty quick. I believe next week I'm going to be doing Ice type, and then after that we're going to start getting into the ones that are going to be longer videos, because it's going to be types that have a lot of different Pokemon. So stay tuned for those. But before we get started, the comment question of the day: tell me who your favorite Fairy type Pokemon is. Mine is Primarina. It's probably my favorite Pokemon along with Gallade. I love it, and let's get into it. So again, just to reiterate, for this one is going to be Gen 6 onward, because Fairy types don't exist in previous generations. So I'm not going to talk about Clefable. So when I talk about Pokemon like Clefable, Wigglytuff, who are in all the way Gen 1, don't really worry about them in Gen 1. I'm going to talk about them when I talk about normal. That'll be like when they're Gen 1. This is just going to be Gen 6 onward when the Fairy type exists, or if you're playing maybe a ROM hack that has vanilla Pokemon, but it adds the Fairy type into it, something like that. So that's what I'm talking about, mostly later generations. And let's get into it. So we've got the tiers. I've got the F tier, the Fugly tier. This is probably the strongest an F tier has ever been. I don't think any of these Pokemon are outright bad. Like, I don't think if you ever had these Pokemon in your party for whatever reason, they are so unusable bad. No, they're actually pretty good. I just put the F tier here just to differentiate, because a lot of these Pokemon are just really good when what they can do. We've got the C tier, this is the cute tier, beautiful, the B tier. These are very good Pokemon, but they just aren't above the rest. That's literally all it is. It's just, theirs is better. Astounding, these Pokemon are really good. They offer a lot for you. And then the Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious tier, or the S tier, which is the best of the best. I think these Pokemon just hard carry your games when you get them. And at the very end, I will put the Great Fairy, who I think is the best Fairy type Pokemon for your Nuzlocke playthroughs. And let's get started with it. So let's start with Clefable. One thing I really love for a Nuzlocke, and for a Pokemon to have in a Nuzlocke, is flexibility, and I can't think of better Pokemon to represent flexibility than Clefable. I mean, outside of speed, this Pokemon can be really defensive for you. It can be very offensive. It can learn a ton of different moves, lots of coverage moves. It's a great Calm Mind and like Moonlight or Softball user. And then you teach it like Bolt Beam or Psychic or Flamethrower. It can learn a bunch of different utility moves. It can have like Encore and Sing and Minimize and all this different stuff. It's so flexible. It can do so many different things for you. It's bulky. You get it early. Magic Guard can be a great ability. If only I had Unaware. I would love for Unaware to be the main ability and not a hidden ability, but even then, it's got so many things going for it. I have to put it in the A tier. I thought about putting it S tier, but once I kind of ranked everything separately, I decided to drop it down. But I think A tier is a great spot for it to go. Alolan Ninetales really kind of is carried by having Snow Warning, which is a hidden ability, so without it, I don't think it's a very good Pokemon. It's kind of just an Ice type. It's fast, but it's not hitting very hard. It's like 80 special attack or something, which just isn't very good. You're better off using Ice Beam on like a Water type or something. Ice and Fairy is kind of redundant too, because you're already killing dragons with one of the types, so you don't really need both. You're just like a better dragon killer. So I don't think it's like amazing. Speed is nice. Auroraville with Hail would be really good. Like, if it had Snow Warning as its main ability, I would put it higher. I would probably put it in A tier. At least B tier. But without it, it's just Snow Cloak, which is just not it. So I'm going to put it in the C tier. Not a bad Pokemon, just pretty underwhelming compared to the rest. I think Wigglytuff also goes here. It's like kind of bulky. I think it's just a poor man's Clefable. It's kind of bulky. It might hit a little bit harder. Normal Fairy is, I guess, interesting. I guess the normal typing is kind of interesting because you still have the Ghost immunity, which is like pretty cool, but you're also not resisting fighting. It's just not as good as Clefable, and that's just the truth. It's not fast. It's not bulky enough, really. It's just kind of a... You can make it work. It can fill a lot of different roles for you, just like Clefable, but kind of more, I guess, restricted because it's just not as good. Rapidash is... It hurt me to do this, but I have to put it in the F tier because it just doesn't ever get physical Fairy Stab. You don't get Play Rough. You have to get the TM if you could even get the TM in Gen 8. I can't remember. I don't even want to look it up. Like, that's awful. And its special attack is not good. It's got good speed and it's got good physical attack, and like Mega Horn is great and it's got like Psycho Cut, so it's like a good psychic type. But as a fairy type, I gotta put it. I gotta put it F tier just as a fairy type, you know. As a psychic type, maybe it's a little better. Maybe C tier. I'll leave it at the top of F tier, but I have to put it down here. I just lack of like play rough is just rough. Is hard. There's not much. There's not much to save it. I don't think. I think just moveset is just too rough. Wheezing, I almost put in S tier. Neutralizing gas can be a very clutch ability, and it's the only Pokemon that can have it. Wheezing or Galarian Wheezing. Poison Fairy is also pretty good typing. You know, you're only weak to Ground, Steel, Psychic, which is pretty easy to cover. Honestly, just have a Ground type, have a Dark type, and you're good. That's very good. It has very good defense. It still has like decent special attack and attacking stats, so it can still be kind of offensive. But I think just neutralizing gas alone gives it just a niche that no other Pokemon can ever do, because you just completely invalidate, or just get rid of an ability. Not even invalidate. You just get rid of the ability of the opposing Pokemon, which could be really clutch. Otherwise, Levitate's good too. So I think it an A tier. I think A tier is fine. It's a really strong niche, and outside of that niche, it's still a very solid Pokemon. Mr. Mime is a very consistent Pokemon. I always like him as a support Pokemon, but he's got the capability to be pretty offensive. He can get like electric coverage, grass coverage, which is pretty cool. He can have like Fake Out, Encore. Filter is an awesome ability. It just reduces the amount of damage you take from super effective hits. So he's just even bulkier, and he's like the perfect Screeds Pokemon, in my opinion. He's also got Baton Pass, if you want to do like Baton Pass Barrier or Calm Mind or something. Really, really solid support Pokemon. Who can also be, you know, offensive. It's not just limited to support. Psychic Fairy, you usually get it pretty early, too. I like it a lot. I think B tier is a very comfortable spot for it. It's kind of outshined offensively by some other Pokemon of the same type, like a Gardevoir or Hatterene, and I think there can be better Pokemon defensively. Even like Clefable is probably a little bit better than it, but it's very solid. I like it a lot. I'm gonna put Granbull here too. Play Rough will be a good stab for it. Intimidate is an amazing ability. It's got good attack. It's a very straightforward physical attacker, but Intimidate is just so good. If you guys know anything about me and my channel, you know that I love Intimidate. You know that I think Intimidate is like the best ability ever. So if you have Intimidate, you're already pretty good. And he's got like okay bulk. Quick Feet is whatever. So you're really hoping for Intimidate. He evolves early too. Early Intimidator, one of the best typings in the game, if not the best, 120 attack. It's not the bulkiest, like, it's got okay bulk, 90 HP, but not great defenses. It's slow, like, it's not, I could put it up here if it had better stats. If it had speed, even just usable speed, or it was a lot bulkier, but with Intimidate and with, 120 attack, it's going to help you out. And it can have some good coverage, so I think B tier is fine. It's a very usable Pokemon, it's a very serviceable Pokemon, but not much better than, you know, other things you'll get. Like Azumarill, honestly, Azumarill is a little bit better. I'm going to leave Azumarill. I think I'm going to leave it in the B tier. Huge Power is great. It just doubles the attack stat. I can learn Belly Drum, Stab, Aqua Jet, and Play Rough and Waterfall from Huge Power is great. Water Fairy is great typing. It's a very solid Water Fairy type. There's better Water types, honestly, though. And to that same extent, there's still better Fairy types. So I'm going to leave it at the top of B tier, but I do really like this Pokemon. It's a great early game Pokemon. It's a fantastic early game Pokemon. And then it kind of dies out a little bit later on, but it's still very solid. I could not argue somebody if they were like, oh no, Azumarill's A tier. I'd be like, yeah, that's fair. It's very good. That's a very good Pokemon. Gardevoir, I do think, is A tier. It's a very good offensive Pokemon, good special defense, and a usable speed stat, so it's not slow. It's pretty fast. You've got some okay coverage on it. It can learn like Thunderbolt. It gets Wish and Calm Mind by level up, which is really, really cool. And Psychic Fairy Stab is just solid. It's a very good offensive special attacking Pokemon. Nothing really to say about it. It's just it's good. It is good all around. It's not really that much of a defensive Pokemon, but it sets up for itself too, which is really cool. Mawile's got like the best typing ever. Steel Fairy is like the best typing, and it has Intimidate, the best type. So I don't really care that it has bad stats, because it's got the best of the two other categories. And moveset wise, I mean, because its stats are pretty bad, you're not going to use it offensively, but it's a very good defensive Pokemon. It has the best defensive typing, the best defensive ability. It gets Baton Pass. You can use like Iron Defense Baton Pass. You can use things like Fake Tears. There's a lot you can do with it as just like a hindrance Pokemon, as a support Pokemon for your own Pokemon. I like this thing a lot. I actually really like Mawile, especially when it gets the Fairy type. It's still in C tier. Like I'm still not ranking it high, but I'm gonna put it at the top of C tier. I'm not gonna put it B tier. I'm gonna be like, my personal bias preference alone, I'm gonna leave it down in C tier. But I think it's pretty actually solid. You should definitely give it a shot. It's better than you think it is. Togekiss is easily an S tier. This Pokemon, if you could get Hustle, well, that sucks. It doesn't really do anything for you. But if you get Serene Grace, you just can have a 60% flinch rate on your Air Slash. It's a perfect Choice Specs Pokemon because it's bulky. It's got okay speed. And even if you have Hustle, like Choice Specs Aura Sphere is perfect. It gets so much random coverage. Like, it can have like Flamethrower. It can have really good support moves. Like, it can have like Encore from Togekiss, or Togetic. Togetic, I think is how you pronounce it. Togetic gives a lot of really good support moves. It's like Clefable on crack. It's Clefable, but bulkier. The added flying type is kind of nice. Better offensive coverage. Or not better offensive coverage, but, still useful offensive coverage. It's just Clefable on crack. It's so flexible. It's so broken. It's so good. Serene Grace. Yeah, this thing is ridiculous. Whimsicott, Prankster puts it in S. I mean, Prankster on Whimsicott's kind of funny because it's almost not necessary. Like, it's already so fast, but still, just having Prankster is really, really useful. Especially in later generations, which start getting power crept and are faster. But I think just Prankster Tailwind, Prankster, I think you can get like Trick Room too, which is funny. Just Prankster alone is very, very useful. It's very fast and it's got some decent offense to it. Like it's usable offense. It's not going to hit super hard, but it can still do something for you. It's a great support Pokemon. It's a great pivot. I think A tier is perfect for it. I think A tier is it's very usable. It covers the grass type niche that you might need for your team too, which is fun. Yeah, I think highly of Whimsicott. I think it's very solid. A tier, B tier. I could almost add. Like, I don't think it's as good as like these guys, but I think it's better than these guys down here. I could add a tier in between and throw like a Azumarill and Whimsicott here, but I'm not going to. I think Whimsicott's great. All right, now we get to Gen 6. Florges is how I pronounce this Pokemon name. Florges is basically a Blissey. This thing's like an offensive Blissey. It has a massive special defense stat. Not as much HP, so it's not literally a Blissey, but like it's such a crazy special wall, and it still hits hard, and it's got a lot of grass coverage and healing and good moveset. This thing is just, it's a very good Pokemon. It's definitely going the A tier for me. Just a special defense stat alone, like 150 something. It's just such a crazy. It's such a wall. It's such a wall. It's a discount Blissey. Like, I banned Blissey into my Nuzlocke because it's so dumb and boring and makes the game just easy. But Florges is just like the Walmart Blissey, but it's not even the Walmart Blissey. Blissey you get from like this like online shop where you buy yachts and some guy like comes to your house and finds the best Pokemon for you. And then Florges is where you get at like you have to have this like this platinum credit card to get in. That's where you can buy Florges. It's like the discount, but it's still like rich man's. It's broken. All right, Aromatisse is a very lackluster fairy type compared to everyone on this list, and so it's going to F tier. It's not bad. I'm not saying it's unusable. It's an early game fairy. Same with Slurpuff. These two are just the same to me. They've got some good bulk. They have not the best stats, but they're good for early game. They're just early game fairies, but they fall off. And I mean, a lot of these other fairies are also early game fairies, so I don't think that niche holds very well, hence the F tier. Sylveon without Pixelate, because Pixelate's hidden ability I don't think is super good, so I'm going to leave it in the B tier. It's still got good special bulk, still good special attack, still fairy type. Q-Charm is fine. It's like it could do something, I guess. I think it's a very solid Pokemon. I thought about putting it up in A tier. I could maybe put it in the A tier. I think if it had more coverage, I would, but competing against something like a Gardevoir Clefable, I just have more coverage. I can't put it there. Because you're really just using like Moonblast, maybe if you get like Mystical Fire TM, and then what? It's then what? So lack of coverage is going to hold it down in the B tier, but Still a very good Pokemon. Dedenne, I just talked about Dedenne last week, and long story short, cheap action is pretty good. And keep it alive. I just don't think its stats are very good. Electric Fairy is nice, but not amazing. I think it's just a very solid C tier. Kind of like Ninetales. It's like the dual typing is kind of cool. Maybe a little bit better than Ninetales. Dual typing is kind of useful. Got good speed stat, but not like super fast. And honestly, in the generation it's in, and the generation it's going to play it in, it's so power crept and things are like very, very fast. So it's not super fast. It's a very decent. It's just a decent Pokemon. That's really all it is. Carbink. I would love something like Carbink in earlier games, but honestly, power creep. It's got great bulk, but has no physical presence at all, or physical offensive presence at all. It's you kind of just use that as like you set stealth rocks, maybe you set screens, and that's it. I mean, that's good. I might leave it out of C tier, out of F tier, put it into C tier, but I just don't think too highly of it. I don't think too highly. I'm gonna leave it F tier. I'd still, honestly, if I got into Nuzlocke, I still like it because it's a fairy type, but like, it's kind of just looking at everything else on the list. I really just like kind of shrug at it and can't think of it highly. So I'm gonna leave it here. Fine support Pokemon, but there's better. Like Klefki, who has Prankster and the best defensive typing, as we've talked about. So it's really good. So just like Mawile, it's got the best typing ever and a really good ability. I think Prankster is not the bad. I like Intimidate more than Prankster, but Prankster is super, super good. This is a support Pokemon. It's got like okay, it can be like a decent offensive Pokemon if you give it like Calm Mind or something, and then you could do like Flash Cannon or Mirror Shot or Dazzling Gleam. So it can operate offensively, unlike Mawile, but really use this thing for like screens, maybe Thunder Wave. Just Prankster is very, very useful. So I'm gonna leave it here, kind of with Whimsicott. It's a very, very good Pokemon. Let's see, Primarina is one of the best starters for a Nuzlocke, so I'm gonna put it in S tier. Because of that, it's also, I mean, Water Fairy. It's one of the better water types you're going to get. I can't think of much water types you'll get that are better than Primarina. So it outclasses a bunch of water types. I think it outclasses a bunch of fairy types. It's very specially bulky. It's got great special defense. It's got amazing special attack. It's got a really good moveset too because it can get grass coverage and like Energy Ball, which is crazy. So it's also a water killer, which is really cool. So just the combo of like Surf, let's say Surf or Water Stab, Ice Beam, Moonblast, and Energy Ball is really, really useful. I like this thing a lot. It's my favorite. It's like my favorite Pokemon. So there's a little bit of bias, but it's also just super good for Nuzlocks and typing and the moveset, and it's just super good. I thought about putting it A tier, but I think just because of the water typing and the usefulness as a starter, I decided to put it S tier. I think maybe I'll leave it A tier. Somewhere here. I'll leave it at the top of A tier. How about that? I'll leave it at the top of A tier with like Florges and Gardevoir. How about that? Let's do that. That. Sure. Alright, Ribombee is stupidly fast. And Quiver Dance, your speed means you're going to get your Quiver Dance up first, so you've got actually special bulk. And it's the early game bug type that you get early, and it's like going to be a really early fairy type, and just Quiver Dance, like Bug Buzz, Moonblast. This thing's just the speed in Quiver Dance, honestly, just keeps it at least B tier for me. I think it's very, very solid and scary Pokemon, so I'm leaving it up in here for sure. Also, Shield Dust can be kind of nice, I guess. It's just kind of nice. You just ignore like the extra effects of things, so you can get flinched by like a Iron Head or a Body Slam, can't paralyze you, stuff like that. That could be nice. It could be nice for pivoting. A reliable pivot, even though it's frail, but I like it. Shiinotic, this thing gets Spore at an earlier level than pretty much every other Spore Pokemon, and I like it. It still has a decent offensive presence as a Grass type and a Fairy type with like Giga Drain, keeping it alive. It's got some decent bulk to it. Effect Spore is pretty solid. There's a lot of things I like about it. And early Spore is great, so I think B tier is very fitting for it. It's not like super impressive Grass type or stat-wise or anything like that. It's just very solid and very good. I think good is a perfect word for it. And so B tier. Comfey, at first glance, does not seem that crazy. but I think this thing is definitely an S tier. Because if you get Triage, which is not a hidden ability, which, if you don't know what Triage means, any healing moves have priority. This works for Leech Seed, this works for Giga Drain, Draining Kiss, Floral Healing, which is more of a doubles move, or something like Synthesis. So you can basically ignore your speed stat, which is, honestly, you're fast too, which is funny. You've got decent bulk, decent special attack, and you can just basically Leech Seed with priority, and then priority healing move, and never really take damage. You're just constantly whittling them down, and you're always healthy, and you're setting up Leech Seed for your teammates. And even outside of that, you've got really good support moves, like you can use Screens on it, you can use Trick Room, which is really cool. It's a very, very good Pokemon. It's a very flexible Pokemon, and it just keeps healing itself, and Triage is just a really good ability. And the combo of Grass Stab and Fairy Stab. This is honestly the best Grass Fairy type, even though Florges, who's also not a Grass type, like they're both not Grass types, but they're like the best Grass Fairies, funny enough. And there's like actual Grass Fairies down here that are just worse because these Pokemon are just crazy. And Triage, yeah, Triage is the reason why it's so good. Also, I mean, stat-wise, it's not bad. It's got good bulk, it's got good speed, it's got good special attack. I think this thing's got a really cool niche. Triage is super cool. I'm going to throw Mimikyu also in the S tier. Disguise is just a free hit, and Ghost and Fairy typing is really cool defensive typing. You've got, and offensively too. Not a lot resists you. The Fairy smacks the Dark that resists Ghost, and then it's pretty much just normal, which you can just hit it for Fairy. Hit it with Fairy and hit it for neutral. It's a great setup sweeper with Swords Dance. It can use things like Trick Room. Disguise is just a really crazy ability. It just gives you a free hit. It gives you a free turn to set up, and then you are very solid from there. Stat-wise is great. It's got good offensive stats. Great typing, great ability, great niche. S tier to me. It's just easily S tier. I think I had it as the best ghost type, right? I think it deserves to stay up here for Fairy too. Hatterene is like a Gardevoir. It's bulkier Gardevoir, but it's slower. So it's just, if you have both, what do you want? They both hit. It might hit a little bit harder. You still get like Calm Mind. You can get I think you can get like Wish or Moonlight or something. I think it's Wish. I want to say Wish. And Trick Room, it's great. Fine abilities. I think it's just, I would personally say it's maybe a little bit weaker than Gardevoir, because Gardevoir's speed and I guess more useful abilities would make it a little bit better. A little bit easier to use. How about that? A little bit easier to use, but Hatterene is still really, really good. Great bulk, great power, great responsibility. I had to do it. Grimmsnarl is another S tier. I put him as the king of the dark types. He's just Prankster. Talk about Prankster. Dark Fairy can be really interesting typing. Prankster bulk up is crazy. It's got a really high attack stat too, so it hits really hard. Usable special attack stat, I think. Maybe not usable, but you're using this thing as a physical attacker. You got like play rough. You've got like dark type stab. I don't know. Insert dark type move you want to use. Also insert Prankster. Crazy ability. This thing is ridiculous. Yeah, it's got usable special attack. 95. It's nothing to scoff at. Its speed stat doesn't really matter because you have Prankster and you have like Sucker Punch. You can like bulk up Sucker Punch and just ultimate priority, and then other things. This thing's crazy. Easily S tier to me. And then Alcremie is... What do I have Alcremie? I think I just have it in cute. I don't think this thing's super impressive. Beat your C tier Pokemon. I'll give one more glance over it. I just don't think it was... I don't remember it being anything special. Like, Sweet Veil is... It can't be put to sleep, right? Yeah, it can't be put to sleep. That's useful, I guess. It's usable, I guess. Stat-wise, it's pretty bulky, but it's not as bulky as other... It's kind of like a worse version of like a Sylveon or Florges or Clefable. I guess maybe it's like Clefable, but then it doesn't get Clefable's coverage. You can have like Acid Armor. It'd recover. It's definitely good. I'll put a B tier. I like that. It's definitely usable. It's definitely good. It's just there's better. That's all it is. There is better. It's better. It's not as good as the A tier Pokemon. It's like a Sylveon. I'll call it a Sylveon. And for the final crowning of the Great Fairy, a lot of these S tiers are really, 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 really good. I would say it's between Grimmsnarl and Togekiss, and I think Togekiss is just too easy to use, too free. Like it's just there's nothing to it. There's nothing like Grimmsnarl. I guess you do the combo of bulk up Sucker Punch or something. Togekiss, you just use it. You just use it, slap on, you know, whatever filler coverage moves like Flamethrower or Sphere. It can be offensive, it can be defensive, it can do whatever you want. And it's just crazy bulky. It's crazy good. You have like Roost to yourself too. It's a ridiculous Pokemon. It is ban worthy, honestly. If you're like, I want to ban. If you're like someone like me who wants to ban some Pokemon that make Nuzlocke too easy, I ban Pokemon like Gyarados, Blissey, Snorlax. Honestly, Togekiss is probably there. It's definitely there. It's definitely a part of that group. And that's gonna do it for the list. Let me know what you guys think about this ranking, and also again, tell me who your favorite fairy type is. Mine is Primarina. And next week comes Ice. Thank you all for tuning into the channel. Please go like and subscribe to the video if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this content and you want to see more. Let me know what more content you want to see. I might make a Patreon here pretty soon and figure out what I want to do with that. It'll definitely help me upgrade my system and everything I do with it. And yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Love y'all. Peace.